And all that we'll do is reset them back to their default settings. Okay. All right, so far we have covered the workflow task counter, retaining calendar filters, which is great, adding the ability to automatically set that authentication flag when they self-register, showing you that new PDF option on the leave request and timesheet grids, and retaining grid preferences on the user grid. So we're going to cover the rest of these now. The next one is adding a new email notification for the password expiration. Let me go into here. I think I've got a screenshot maybe on that one. No, I don't. All right, so where that is at is I'm going to go down to System Configuration. And I am going to go to the expiration here, password expiration. There we go. And what we've done is we've added this new field. It was just the password expiration. And so what we did is we added this new field. And so what this is going to do is it's basically going to warn the user when their password is getting close to expiring. So this is district-wide. So if I go ahead and set this for 5 days, when a user's password date is getting close, their expiration date is getting within that 5-day range or period, what's going to happen is they're going to, one, get a message at the login screen that it is going to expire in so many days. And they will also get an email notification. And I think I may have that on this recap. There we go. So here it is, set up 5 days. And so when they log in, they will get this little yellow box up in the corner saying, and I know that's not a very good screenshot, but it says your password expires in 4 days, 3 days, 2 days. And also what it will do is it will give them an option to reset the password right there. So that's convenient. And so from there, then when they click on that, it'll take them right to this change password box, and they can then go in and reset their password. Got a question here, Michelle. Is that password expiration email process ignored if the external authentication box is checked? I believe so, Larry, because they aren't using the password in ESS. They're using the password for their Active Directory. So I'm pretty sure. I will check on that, but I'm pretty confident that it does. If it doesn't, what I will probably do is I will probably make a note in this addition sheet and update that in here and just let you guys know, and also update it in the documentation. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it will. Okay, let me go back to that. And then here's the email that they're going to receive as well. And all it says is your password is going to expire soon. And it tells you how many days you have left and sends you to the application where you can go in and reset it. So, gives them plenty of warning that their password will expire. And if it does, they don't get to it, it happened on a Thursday and they were gone, and then now it's Tuesday and they're logged back in, they're trying to log back in. That's okay, because basically what they'll do is they'll just go to the forgot password option and reset their password there. So not all is lost. But for those that are in here regularly or do check, their ESS, log in here into ESS regularly, they will be able to see those notifications. Okay. So that's this one right here, adding a new one. Oh, I think I might have a direct message. Oh, Michelle, do you have, I'm sorry, yes, you do. Do you have a question? Go ahead.
Sorry. I do that all the time. I didn't have a question.
Okay, that's fine. All right, next on our list here is some login, not errors, I guess I should say messages that we've made some improvements to those. And again, I'm going back to that supplement that I have here to show you these improvements that we made. And it's, it depends on if the account is locked, disabled, expired, or if the password's been expired. I think this will save you guys a lot of questions that you may get from your districts as to what does this mean and what do I do? So if it is a locked user account, it will say this account has been locked. Please contact your administrator for more information. If they're trying to log in and it's locked for some reason, maybe they logged in one too many times and it locked them out, then they will get that message and they will need to contact their school administrator in order to get that reset. If the account was disabled, so the user's account has been disabled, if they try to log in, they're going to get this message. User has been disabled. Again, please contact your administrator for more information. If their user account is expired, so for some reason, they had an expiration date set on their account. If they try to log in, they're going to get this message saying the account is expired. We are improving this. So I just wanted to let you know that there will be a further improvement on this JIRA issue in order to add more context to this message. It'll probably say something like, please contact your administrator for more information or something like that. And then the last one, which is probably the one they get most often, your password expired. This password for this account is expired. Please reset your password. So that's where they would use the forgot password to reset their password, which sends them an email with the temporary password. They copy that password, paste it in to the reset password window in ESS and enter in a permanent password, and they're off and running again. So those are kind of the messages. These are the ones where I really didn't want to go through each one because I knew it would take us a while. So I thought just providing screenshots would be helpful as to the changes that were made in regards to all of those user login messages. So that's this one right here. Any questions on any of the features before I move on? Okay. Now to our improvements. The first one here is adding the USPS position building code to the more option under the sub-coordinator grid. So yeah, we got a lot of questions or requests asking to add that. And so if I go into the sub-coordinator, it's going to be listed underneath the more, and it's this one right here. So you can add that if your district would like to see the positions building code on this. I think that is a pretty helpful one. And that way they can have that on their grid permanently just by clicking on that and adding it. Export leave history. We have improved that by adding a new option called combine exported leave details. And so these are already the leave requests that have been exported. But for some reason, there are specific leave requests that you need to generate a CSV file. Maybe, you did export them into a CSV file a couple weeks ago. The CSV file was lost, you can't find it, or for some reason, some of the leave requests did not get imported into USPS, and you need a new CSV file of those specific leave requests in order to post them into USPS. That's what this combine exported leave details does. So let me show you what that does. That's pretty neat. So I'm going to go down to leave management. And I'm looking at the history. So I'm not talking about outstanding leave requests waiting to be exported. I'm talking about leave requests that have already been exported. And so, this grid, like it's always done, is shows you like your last export that you did. So this one right here shows me that, there were 8 on these. Now, however, there are maybe a couple from the last couple exports that I did that I want to specifically select and generate a CSV file of them so I can either use it for some type of review, or I want to post it into USPS. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick on like these top 2, just on them. And what I'm going to do then is go to the combined exported leave detail option. What that's going to do is it's going to pull all those leave requests from those 2 exports on here. So at this point, it hasn't done anything yet. It's just providing me a grid of those. And then from here, I can go in and specifically select which ones, like I noticed that, the dock days aren't posted. And I'm just going to pick on all the dock days here. And so these are the ones I need to export out in order to create a spreadsheet in order to post into USPS. And so I have these selected. If I want the column headers, which I do, included, I can check mark this box. And then I click on print exported leave detail report, and it's a CSV file. I know it says report, but it's a CSV file. And then from there, it contains the information then for on a spreadsheet of just those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dock days. And then this information can be imported into USPS if need be. So I think that's a lot more flexible or versatile in this exported leave. So it's not changing anything in ESS. Those are already a status of exported. It's just allowing you to generate a spreadsheet of already exported based on ESS leave requests that you need to do something with. So whether you're going to import into USPS or you need it for something else. Okay, moving on. The next one, include originator's leave balance on the emails. Again, if I go to my recap here, I think I have an example of that. So this is a really nice feature that was added. This will allow then for those that get an email, whether it is the approver, I believe the user, the originator gets it as well. Somebody that is read-only with notifications in the group, when they get those emails, it's going to show the user's current leave balance on there. So that, as a supervisor, you want to see, do they have enough leave to cover? This is what my current leave balance is. So that's displayed on the emails. So that was a nice improvement. And let's see. Allow supervisors to enter leave for their staff. Yeah, this is a nice enhancement as well. So, we've got a lot of feedback saying, that the originator is off for the day. That leave request needs to be created. So we need to get that in. So instead of just leaving that on, maybe, the leave manager or district manager, we're also allowing the ability for supervisors. So what's going to happen is now that that's been granted to that supervisor role, what they're going to see is via the leave requests, they're going to see that elevated create leave request option where they can create a leave request on behalf of their staff. And they're only going to see their staff listed. So it's not like they can pick anybody from the district. It's just who they supervise. So that will be on that list, and then they can create a leave request for that staff member. Include substitute name properties on the leave calendar entry details. Yeah, all that's going to do is just display those sub related fields on the calendar leave request. It wasn't showing before. So if, those are being used in ESS, and you've got it marked that a sub is needed, you've got the sub information in there. It wasn't appearing on the leave calendar. It was appearing when you view leave request underneath the leave request grid, but not on the calendars. So when you go into the calendar and you click on a certain person and you see their leave details, the sub, if they have sub information in there, that will be displayed as well. Okay, add reason to the leave request approval grid. Yeah, that's just allowing that's kind of nice so that the approver can see that. I'm not sure if I'm able to see that from here or not. No, I'm not, because I'm in the admin account. But what happens though, I don't have any information, but you do see that that reason column is now included on here by default. We don't have any more option in here to add or remove, not yet anyways. But yeah, we had requests. I want to be able to see the reason when I'm approving leave instead of having to go in and click and view it. I want to see it from the grid, so we added that. Timesheet and leave request group chains. Yeah, this is just an improvement that we made. When viewing the matched employees, so under the group chains, you can click on matched employees to see who all is affected with that group chain. It was including archived employees, and so we've got that now to exclude employee positions, I should say employee positions that are archived, and also positions where the job status is not selected in the job status configuration. So whatever's selected in the ESS job status configuration, active and inactive are maybe selected, but terminated aren't, then it's not going to show those terminated positions underneath the matched employees. So it's an improvement we made so they don't see things they really don't need to, and it's archived. Just a less confusion for them. So yeah, so we added that. Grid preferences, like I said before, these are all of the things that we have done to improve. And so far, this is where adding stuff from the more column, resorting the columns, resequencing them, all of that is going to be retained. And these are the grids that we've done that to. So again, if I would go into like the leave request, view district leave, I go in now and I can make this grid whatever I want. It's basically we're customizing them and it's staying. It's not going to reset it once we, go off of this grid. So yeah, so they can go in, add whatever they need to in here. I'm going to add the USPS position codes in here. And then those are in here now. And then I can go in and reset things, remove things. And once I leave this grid and come back, they'll stay. So like I said, we have several more grid preferences. I know we have the ASAP absence management grids. I think those are going to be on the next release or the release after that to keep that information. I know a lot of people like to filter those. So it'll retain all of those customizations you're making on those grids. Okay, this one here. For this one, this is kind of an improvement we made when it comes to canceling a leave request. So for those that are able to cancel a leave request, it can be enforced that they have to put in a note when they're canceling the request. Now that has to be set up ahead of time via the system configuration, the leave types. There's a require cancellation reason. And then what happens then is I go in to cancel a leave request. If I'm a district manager or a leave manager, I need to go in and cancel somebody's leave. It's going to, and it's a specific, like the sick leave request, then it's going to require me to put in a reason. So let me show you where all that's at. So first off, I'm going to go and show you where that's at underneath the configuration. So I'm under leave type. And it's this column right here. And I only have it to require a cancellation reason underneath a sick leave type. So if I close out of here, and then I go up to my leave requests, and I'm going to find a leave request here that I could just cancel. I'll just pick on Ronald's here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on cancel. And just note it is a sick leave. And you'll notice that I cannot cancel it until I put something in the note box. And once I tab off of this, it will allow me then to click on yes. So it's because of that configuration setting, it's requiring me to put this in here. And that's great. Now that's been canceled. And then when I go in and actually view those leave requests, it will show up on the notes as well. I go in here and go up to leave requests. Here it shows it here, and here's my note that I just entered in here. And also, if I wanted to download that report, it'll show up in there as well. So if I want to pick on one that is not a sick leave, like this, see here, do some filtering on vacations. And I'm just going to pick on this initiated one here, and I'm going to cancel that. So here, as you can tell, because I don't have it to require a note, I don't have to put one in because it's a vacation leave type. And I can just bypass that if I want to and just click yes. So nice little improvement for those that do require for specific leave types. They want a reason listed as to why that leave request was canceled. Okay. One of my favorites on these new improvements is the ability to multi-select approval statuses. It's available on the sub-coordinator grid, and it's also available on the leave request grid. So I'll just show you here when I go to the sub-coordinator, and I can filter and select multiple, which is wonderful. And I can do the same on the leave request grids. So one of my personal favorites from the recent improvements. And the last improvement is under the sub-coordinator grid. Yes, we improved it to allow the substitute needed to be checked and unchecked. The sub-coordinators couldn't uncheck that substitute needed. So something changed and they're like, oh, I need to go in and uncheck that. They weren't able to. So we made that improvement. However, one other thing we did when we thought about that, we're like, okay, it's what if a user created a leave request and forgot to check mark sub needed. So, and they're gone for the day and it's not on the sub coordinator grid because it's not marked as sub needed. How can we go in and make those changes? So what we did for those elevated users is we were giving them the ability to edit those substitute related fields via the district leave request view. So if I go, I think I'm already in here. And so they can go in, and if they need to, I'm just going to pick on one here. I can go in and mark this as substitute needed. And once I do, it will activate those sub-related fields and allow me to put that stuff in here as well as substitute scheduled if I needed to. What they'll probably do is just mark it as sub-needed. And once it's marked as sub-needed, then it'll appear on the sub-coordinator grid. She'll be able to see it, and then she can proceed with the sub-calling. So that was a nice improvement.
Michelle, quick
Yes.
question. Is only a person with the role of substitute coordinator allowed to change that box, or could a district manager change that as well?
District manager can change that as well. It would be the elevated users. So it'd be district manager, I think leave manager, admin sub coordinator.
Looks
And I
like
think
we had a district that requested that and they're still unable to, their users are still unable to, the elevated ones are still unable to mark that box. So I'll just put in a ticket that they're still having some issues.
okay. Do you know which one it is? It's the like the elevated role that they're talking about, or
Actually, I'm an admin and I can't change it. The sub needed box.
well,
So
let me go in here because I'm an admin as well. So you're saying right here that it's not something that you can check.
correct.
Okay. I wasn't sure if maybe, something was set, funny or something like that. So yeah, go ahead and create a ticket, Jake. I'm not quite sure. That should be working for you. Okay, I think I covered all the improvements. We did have a few bugs and a couple hot fixes based on those bugs. Nothing, some of these were kind of just specific to a district. And others were just slight little bugs to basically improve something. So I'm not really going to cover those. And then we also had a couple of patches or internal changes that were made in here as well. So yeah, that's all we have in regards to the recap for ESS. One other thing I wanted to quick show you guys before we move on to USAS is I know that we've had a few districts asking about setting up ESS for those that did not convert over from kiosk. And underneath our ESS appendix, we have a new a wiki page here where it's basically the steps for a new district to start up in ESS. So based on how you install the application, whether you do that through the VRA options that the Management Council provides, or whether you use our employee self-service installation guide. Once all of that's set up, we basically listed like the post-installation steps. Like these are the things you need to think about in USPS if you want to do certain things in ESS. And then in here, it takes you through, what do I, as a new district now, I got a blank ESS instance. What do I need to set up? And so it'll just take you through like the configuration screen and the things that, are recommended to be set up. Some of the other system menu, how to set up your user accounts. You have different options to do that. And then syncing with USPS, setting up group chains. And then at the bottom, we just have more miscellaneous information for, now that you got the district set up, stuff that may help out the district with their roles. We've got that ESS menu options available by role, and just talking about if they are going to integrate with ASAP, you want to go here for more information. If they're going to use timesheets, you want to go here. And then just a quick reference too about our November newsletter. We added a bunch of demos based just short demos based on roles, like the user role. And they could, for those that are new, you could give them those demo recordings and they can basically have like a self-tutorial of the application. So yeah, so that was, I just wanted to throw that out there that we did have that. Okay. Well, I think you guys don't have any further questions. I'll go ahead and pass this over to Pat. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Okay, good morning. You guys should be seeing the USAS release page or the section of the USAS releases. We did have 2 regular releases and 1 hot fix. This hot fix was actually listed under the 2024 page, but it was released in January, so I included it there. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But the new feature is the ability to post refunds via CSV file from the refund grid. However, I also have news that there's a hot fix coming probably later today regarding this. but I'll show you, we updated the documentation. So under refunds or transaction refunds, there's a new section, import refunds and refund import criteria. And like any other import option, we included the required fields. We included the template, sample template that you could use to populate. When the check date is left blank, it will default to like today's current date. Excuse me. So let's take a look. So this is a refund from the refund grid, but it's these fields. And I wanted to point out that when you're doing this manually, if you're creating a check and entering a vendor, this is going to automatically fill in the vendor's name so that it creates the disbursement. But looking at a spreadsheet, I have one sample one. I have the date of, I believe that's Monday, a refund description, the account, the amount, the vendor, which is just this. If I leave that blank, it will populate what the vendor's name is. And I do want to create a check. Now the bug is when you have multiple lines here, it didn't create all the disbursements. But again, that hot fix is coming later today. So let's just import this one. And it will work like this in the future. So on the refund grid, you click on import, choose your file. Okay, just a moment. Here it is. Or maybe I didn't save it. Maybe I should start. Just a moment. I want to make sure I got the right file. Save as CSV downloads. Okay. So then in the application import, I choose that file. And then when I click load, I'm going to get how many loads, which in this case is going to be one, as well as a file USAS load error if there were any. So one record was loaded and it was the construction worker. So this one for $100, refund of miscellaneous, that vendor 78. It did have the check date of 2/10 and the refund date because in my spreadsheet I indicated that. So now I would need to go to the disbursement grid in order to process or print that check. So it's this one. And then from here, you would just generate your print file to create the check. But that's going to be very helpful towards the end of the year when school districts start processing refunds for whatever reason. And again, it will be fixed later today or Monday so that you could do more than one. Another improvement was there's like a lockdown on the account change process. So during the account change process, it will not let the user process any transactions against the accounts involved in the account change process. So the to account or the from account, it won't even become available like in the drop down account selection on any transaction until that account change is complete. Some bugs that were, this is the bug that was fixed on that 2024.24.1 hotfix. And the AP invoice import option was creating invoices for amended PO items that were actually canceled and it should not have been. So that was the correction on the hotfix. They improved the anonymizer error handling when coming across PO items without charges. They corrected an account change to handle updating distribution transactions that were in a closed posting period. And they corrected the AR billing to require a payment location. There are some people, like this demo instance, when you go to the billing grid, you have this error. And what that release did is fix what I did. So you got to have a default payment location always. But what I did was make this false. So the rentals was not the default payment location, with the intention of making the cafe the default payment location. But as soon as I changed the status to false, I got that error about billings that had that attached to it. So that will never happen again. However, there are probably a few of you that have that error on the billing grid, that is involved in another patch that will be fixed as well. Any questions on that? That didn't affect everybody, but now it won't affect no one. And then something internal when they refactored the code to use constructor injection. Any questions on USAS? On inventory, we had one regular release, which included a new report to help detect problems with item depreciation. The new report is called, let me go to the instance, the acquisition / original cost mismatch report. Let me click on it. So this report will list items that do not have acquisition totals that are equal to the original cost. You can sort by fund, function, or asset class, as well as statuses. And when you generate it, this report may be helpful. Oh, I think I had one already up here. Here, oh, that was a different one. So this might help in determining the amount on the fixed asset source report in the field of acquisitions prior to system startup, because you can see the original and the acquisition total, and it lists the ones that do not match. The other improvement was the location worksheet, and they added the physical inventory comment. They did some formatting, things like center the item status. They added the option to include, let me go to that report. You now have that option to add the acquisition date to the report if you want, as well as add the original cost to the report. So I did, and you can see the acquisition date and original cost in these two columns. And then I think we just had, and this was, this bug was actually fixed back in April of 2022, but for those districts that migrated prior to April of 2022, they may have had like a fiscal year in inventory that didn't display the year value. And there were some districts before that was fixed that these districts created fiscal years prior to the import year. So those are now closed, and it will update any applicable districts to close those fiscal years that may have been remained open prior to the migration date. Any questions on USAS or inventory? I don't see any in chat, so I will pass the baton over to USPS releases. Have a good weekend.
All right, you guys should be seeing the USPS information now on your screen, I hope. In the month of January, we did have 3 hot fixes and a couple regular releases, so that's what we're gonna cover. First, the improvements. We did have just a slight shift in the printing of the W-2 form template. We just moved this slightly, very slightly to the left, so that the placement sort of fit within the form border. So, we've hopefully moved past the printing side of W-2 for 2024. And we had, included information when the hotfix went out that, just to double check your printing and if everything aligned, as it should, in prior years, that there was no need, for you to reprint anything. So that's what the first improvement, was about. Moving on to the second, we actually added several errors to the pay error report, to hopefully be more helpful in determining what kind of errors may be included with the actual payroll itself. And the first was to include an error when no payroll items were being withheld from an employee. Not, very common. However, last calendar year, we did have an instance where all of the payroll items were stopped for an employee. So that prevented them from getting a W-2. So now we actually warn the user that, if there are no payroll items being withheld from an employee, just double check and make sure that should be the case. So we hope to prevent, those missed cases of an employee receiving a W-2 happening going forward. In the W-2 report chapter, we do have a section that outlines the criteria for an employee to be included, on the W-2 report, and obviously eventually receiving a W-2. And the first is, that they have a federal year-to-date gross. They have a federal year-to-date amount withheld. They have some sort of, OSDI taxable gross that's not related to, or that's not equal to 0, I'm sorry. That their Medicare or FICA taxable gross is not equal to 0. And then any archived employees that do have year-to-date amounts, they will be on the report and receive a W-2. So even if you archive somebody throughout the calendar year, if there are year-to-date amounts present on that archived employee, they will still get a W-2. So, here we have outlined the criteria, and then along with the enhancement then to produce that error. If there are no payroll items being withheld, hopefully that helps clear up and prevent somebody from not getting a W-2 that should. We also added an additional warning for no active Ohio or other state tax payroll item for an employee. So again, just alerting them that there's no, state payroll item in existence for an employee. And then we added some additional checks when it comes to retirement. So I'm going to go back to the errors that we have listed in the payroll processing chapter. And, some time ago, we did add some checks when it comes to no active STRS or SERS payroll item for an employee, as well as no the retirement code on the position being set to none. So these three warnings were already in existence. So those checks were already in place. We just didn't quite put all the pieces together, if you will, in the fact that we now have a check that, okay, if the employee has a 400 or a 450 retirement record, is that corresponding 590, 591, 690, 691? Do those pieces exist? So if they do not, then we now warn the user that, hey, just make sure that these are set up as they should. They should probably have some sort of corresponding 590, 690, 591, 691 if they have a 400 and a 450. So those additional checks should help with all of the various retirement, not being set up correctly, situations that, we know districts always run into. So with that being said, I did also want to point out that in the useful procedures section of the documentation, we do have a couple chapters that might be helpful when the retirement isn't set up correctly. This correction where there's no retirement withheld at all, hopefully that is non-existent now. But this last one listed here, the wrong retirement systems paid, could still come into play. So we do have, outlined in this useful procedures section, if the wrong retirement was withheld, maybe it should have been STRS and, SERS was set up for an employee, how to go about correcting those. So I just wanted to point those out, that those sections are out here in the documentation. So between the checks we have in place, along with these checklists to correct those, hopefully we've started to, end all of those issues where, we're correcting retirement situations on a regular basis, because we understand that's a struggle, and it's not fun to fix. Okay. Where are we at? Then we also added another warning for any error adjustments that cannot be withheld due to there not being enough, remaining gross for an employee. So we've added a warning for that, so that, hey, these are not going to be withheld this time because there's not enough remaining gross for the employee to withhold. So that will continue to hang out there until it can be withheld, but at least it now warns them that it didn't happen this pay. And then another improvement then was we added the W-2 submission file city summary report. So we had requests for this report because prior there really was not a good way for districts to balance or know what amount actually for that particular city was contained in the file. So now you do have the ability to run this new option. If I go to reports, W-2 reports, and I go down to W-2 report and submission. If I select the W-2 city tab, this report here is what we're talking about. So going back to my example in the recap here, I've taken some screenshots. So districts should be able to select a city from their W-2 report. So in this case, I've highlighted this city 3. Let me make this a little bigger so you can hopefully see it. So here you see payroll item 003. The W-2 report list, the tax withheld and then the taxable gross. On the new city summary report, you can see that you can now see that amount then contained that's contained in the file itself for this particular city matches that information. So districts, have a way now to balance that and make sure that, what's contained in the file and going to be sent to that city matches what it should be. The other report, the file summary, contains all of the information in that particular submission file. So this is what they had previously, what they still have, but you can see there was no good way to know what amount was contained just for that particular city. Okay. All right. So hopefully districts found that helpful this year when they were going to balance their city submission information. Next was an update to the payslip service, and this was basically for ESS purposes. Prior to this change, ESS users could log in, and once on the payroll side, their payroll was posted and those pay slips were available. A user could log in on the ESS side and see those right away. And that caused some confusion. The pay date isn't till Friday. A district or ESS user logs in on Wednesday, and because the payroll process had happened and it was all complete, those users could see those pay slips. So now it actually prevents them from seeing those until the pay date of the pay slip. So that confusion, shouldn't happen any longer. The next enhancement was the ability for a group manager. Anybody that has the group manager role can now run the SSDT user listing report and the SSDT user listing AOS extract report. So prior to this update, anybody with the group manager role was unable to run these reports. So we added the USPS admin view and then the USPS admin report. So now, because of these two roles, these two permissions being added to this role, those two reports can now be generated without any problem. So if I log out here and I go ahead and I'm going to log into this user here. And this user has the group manager role, and I can show you that here in a minute. But if I go ahead and I try to run either of these reports here, it will run then as expected. Okay, so if I log out. Okay, LastPass is being a little difficult. Okay, go away. One more time here. All right, let's just. All right, well, we won't spend any more time with that. If we would, I was gonna show you if I go to that, you know, as an admin user, if I log into that account and I look at the user that I just logged in as, he has the group manager role, and you can see then that these two permissions are added to that group manager role. Next on the pay report, I know that we've had several requests for the future pay group totals to also remain on the pay report when the payroll is posted, as well as when it's the saved pay report that goes to the file archive. So users will now be able to you know, look at that pay report in those two places and see this exact same report as they see when they generate it when they're running their payroll. So I've actually here included some screenshots. Hopefully you can see this here that I've taken from a posted pay report. So if you go to the details of the payroll and you view the pay report, you can see here that it now also includes that future gross column, and all of those future totals are listed. As well as if you go to the file archive in the per pay report folder, and you look at those specific pay reports, you can also see that the future gross column exists for that report as well. So hopefully, you know, we've made all of those three pay reports the same now. So, which makes sense, right? They want to be able to look at that information after the payroll's posted. So hopefully they find that helpful. All right. New features. We did have one new feature, and that's the ability to mass load users. So you'll find under the importable entities, when you go to the mass load option, a new entity called user. In the the mass load, not let mass change, make this a little smaller. You'll see that we have updated the documentation to include all the various requirements when you want to generate a load file for mass loading of users. We have a couple templates available. One is to actually update a current users, and one is to start, you know, from scratch basically and load brand new users. So you can select either of those templates to use for whatever, you know, either updating or loading users, whatever you're wanting to do. We do have a couple notes here that, you know, in order for you to add a role to a user, the role has to exist. And then, you know, you cannot load passwords. And then we have a couple read-only fields, and those cannot be updated or loaded as well. And those are the last login, the account expired, and the password expired. So those three fields, cannot be loaded or updated. And then all of, just like the other mass load options, all of the various column headings that apply when you want to mass load anything when it involves users. Okay. All right. And then lastly, we just have a few bugs that and were included in the hot fixes that went out. And one was dealing with the W-2 archival individual forms process. On a prior release, the 2024.24 release, we added the save and recall option to the W-2 report parameters, which, we thought would be super helpful. So you're not having to assure that what you, ran in one area, and when you move to another, you had to be very careful about choosing those exact same options. We kind of locked that in a little bit too hard or too much, if you will. And we passed that along to the W-2 archive individual form process as well. When it comes to pay groups, employees, and the city tax entity IDs. So we removed that when it comes to the W-2 archive individual forms process, so that those would be ignored between those two programs. So, again, that was a thing that happened, way early in the W-2 process side of things. So, hopefully we've moved past that now, and that didn't really impact, too many situations. All right. Next, we had on the 2024.23 release, we had made an update to include, exclude any employee that had a zero total gross, applicable gross, and amount withheld from the printing side of things when it comes to an employee's W-2. So, prior to that, it would print the city name and then zeros, and that would get confusing when it got sent to the city, and those submissions it got confusing. So we removed and put those checks to exclude any employee that had that situation when it comes to the printing side of things. However, the part that was missed was the submission side. So we were still including those situations on the submission side with all zeros, and it was including that RS record with all zeros, and that was causing problems on the submission side of things. So we corrected that, and that should no longer, that was again corrected pretty early in the process, the W-2 process. So that from that point forward, will no longer cause those problems. Next was an issue where the applied to balance flag was not being set correctly in certain scenarios. We had a situation where, it was reported to us that leave was being applied to an employee's balance again. And that was due to, as we dug deeper into the situation, it was due to the leave type being originally set to a doc. And then the doc was changed to a sick day. And then the district switched from deferred absence posting to not being deferred absence posting. And that it set then the employee's balance again because of this specific, sequence of events. So it really all boiled down to that, you know, a couple different things were happening. We weren't setting the supply to balance flag on situations like dock days, in conjunction with deferred posting being, turned on and off. So again, very specific situation that had to, you know, series of events that had to take place in order for this to happen, but we fixed that now, so it should never happen. So that is what that bug pertained to. And then the last correction that took place was an issue with the way that a dock day calculations was being handled and reported on the pay report when it comes to multiple position employees. So that's also kind of a very specific situation, and that's been corrected as well. So that will no longer happen either. All right, I don't see any questions. Does anyone have any questions when it comes to the USPS issues that we talked about? Okay. And I am not usually last, and I'm not prepared to talk about next week. So let's go out here to our meeting and trainings page. And let's see what we have next week. All right. So we are already moving on to February 14th. Oh my goodness, the middle of February already. And we're going to talk budgeting. So next week, it will be a review of budgeting, the budgeting options on the USAS side. So hopefully everybody will tune in next Friday for that. If there are no questions, I'll check one more time. I don't see anything. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.